All right. Well, thanks everyone for sharing your time with us, and we're looking forward to the questions later. I'm going to read a little bit about my impressions about a shared project that I'm co-authoring with Noni, Brynjolson. We've been traveling up to Antelope Valley in LA, in the LA County, and trying to pay attention to a very interesting project that different institutions and people are doing together called Art Outpost Antelope Valley. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges and our solutions, our temporary solutions to these challenges as writers and researchers. To the global imagination, Southern California is often eclipsed by Los Angeles' glowing polished face. Beachfronts, brunch spots, galleries and cars, sunsets, palm trees, and the magnitude of the ocean. The ocean, such a vast body of water that seems to put the perfect end for a foundational narrative of progress, yet still retold through an infinity of signs, songs, and polymorphic events. Embodied in this common narrative is the assumption that history, indeed, did dematerialize here and led us to drum circles in Venice Beach. However, we all know that California is not this. Behind every glowing star, there's a whole infrastructure working to create excess energy to be burned out in the dark. Atop California's pockets of privilege live millions forming an escalating lower class. The inland areas, far from the ocean. Harvest deserts and valleys hosting industries as different as agricultural production and the military. Inland live millions of factory, transportation, and agricultural workers filling the service economy predominant in the coast. While the class break is increasingly visible in urban areas, it becomes evident outside cities like San Diego and Los Angeles, where Southern California wealth accumulates. One of these depressed regions is the Antelope Valley. North of LA County, in the northern tip of the Mojave Desert, Antelope Valley is a bedroom region to LA, with a population of 500,000 people. Aerospace, mining, agriculture, manufacturing are its primary production sectors. The Rockwell B-1 Lancer bomber was developed here. Borax is extracted, alfalfa still harvested. Lancaster and Palmdale are its biggest cities, with around 150,000 inhabitants each. 3 other towns, most of which are non-incorporated, complete the total population count with an average of 2,000 inhabitants each. This section has an important history of water scarcity, which is placing it again on the map due to a lasting drought the state currently experiences. Moreover, its groundwater levels are diminishing, in big part because of their historical deviation to serve greater LA's water needs. Today, the area faces new challenges. One of them is the relocation to the valley of part of Long Beach Port's storage infrastructures, plus the construction of 2 big railways, one to connect the new inland port with coastal access, and the other, a high-speed train plan between San Francisco and San Diego for next years. Parallel to this material redefinition of the region as transportation hub, LA County is investing in the area's cultural development, with larger budgets directed to local art promotion, translated in the creation of new art institutions, residence programs, festivals, and other activities. Part of this public investment in the region's cultural capital is the Antelope Valley Outpost Project, a 2-year-long program of activities forging community relations through art, with a special emphasis in socially engaged practices. The Antelope Valley Art Outpost Project brings together artists, the local community, and local institutions, encouraging them to participate in the region's redevelopment process. This community-making project is assisted by the Artist Program in Social Practice, the Department of Regional Planning, Museum of Art and History in Lancaster, and the Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance. Resources and management come from the Los Angeles County Art Commission and are funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, the California Arts Council. The project is structured over a series of socially engaged art workshops with invited artists, a festival in May, and a series of shorter projects in which students from artists and the local community join to work together on social and economic issues that the community has faced through the years. By invitation from audit students, Noni, Brynjolson, and I have been following the project since January of this year and plan to continue doing so through the following months. Coming from a years-long relationship with a more traditionally kind of art criticism, we've faced challenges in trying to understand, research, analyze, and represent this work of socially engaged art. Following, I will speak of some of these challenges, the strategies we've developed to best address them, and the ways in which these have shaped a critical methodology of our own that differs from a more traditional one that we still apply when we write about non-community-based art practices. I'll speak of how traditional notions of temporality, space, and objectivity change in socially engaged artworks, and how we've addressed this transformation in our practice as researchers and critics. First, we redefine our role in relation to the specific character of the project. Rather than seeing ourselves carrying out archival research or visiting installed works in galleries, we adopted a position closer to that of the participant observer. While not directly involved in the planning and development of the project, we do participate in different activities in the same degree that members of the local community do. However, our positionality as participants looks closer to that of the students at Audis, and this difference places Noni and I in an interesting point of convergence between the two predominant discourses articulated in the extended project. So we have things in common with the participants, but they still see us as being closer to a group of the students, which can be conflicted, but also very interesting at times. So first, about time. This is an image of one of the workshops held in February this year. Regarding time, this is not a time, like a one-time observation anymore. It's not like going to a gallery and seeing a work or a show. The regional projects like this one require a different type of commitment from all agents involved. And us, borrowing from ethnographic research, we've committed to visiting the project repeatedly so as to see it at different stages of its unfoldment. While in the traditional relation of observation, the art critic is expected to visit the artwork in its gallery or museum setting not more than once, or two times. In this case, it becomes crucial for us to go repeatedly and observe the events, interpersonal relations, and spaces that configure the project in Antelope Valley. In relation to these visits are the numerous field notes taken inside and after the fact, registering everything we remember from the experience, with an emphasis on the relational dynamics playing within each group, as well as those connecting the different agents involved, institution representatives, students, local leaders, local artists, workshop participants, media, etc. The duration of visits goes from 1 to 2 days, with an average time of observation of 20 hours each time. In total, the two of us will have carried out participant observation 8 times each through a period of 5 months, which sums up to approximately 160 hours of observation. An extended amount of time if compared to the time spent by traditional art critic in her relation of observation of a show. I do it all the time, so as let's say contemporary sculpture in a museum space. About space. Space here acquires a different dimension as well. We believe that space is always political, and we see it as another ingredient of the project that, while often exists previously to experience, is also produced in the practice as well. Spaces transform. Spaces change, are reorganized, are rethought during workshops, lectures, and town meetings. In our observation, we pay attention to the configuration of spaces before, during, and after practice takes place. This mostly as gathering spaces for the activities conforming the Art Outpost Antelope Valley project must be diagnosed in relation to their materiality and distribution, their accessibility, and the degree of familiarity that the community already had with them prior to the activities observed. The multiplicity of spaces is a challenge to our process of observation, and it's addressed in our case with extensive descriptions in our field notes, complemented by audiovisual materials such as photos, brochures, images collected online, etc. Combination of data are collected by us as observers and images produced by the different agents involved provides us with a multiplicity of narrative perspectives about the scenarios where this project of socially engaged art materializes. Also, third element that we've been having issues with, objectivity. Here it takes a different meaning when observing a durational project than the one that it has when going to a gallery space. Despite our attempts to remain detached because of our direct implication in the practice, the distance and disinterestedness presumed in the traditional objective critic have no room here. We must acknowledge the limitations of our observations in this regard, as well as embrace the new light that direct implication in the experience can bring into an analysis. How are we interpolated by the project? How do different agents involved in it relate to us? What comes out in our communications with each of them? Rather than content details expressed in language, we look for the way power and difference are represented in it. Ours becomes yet another relationship to acknowledge and analyze in the total count of relations configuring the project. Another strategy that we've developed to attach the limitations that can result from our implication is becoming a two-headed critic, two pairs of eyes, seeing and being seen differently. The sum of our field notes speaks of shared impressions as well as very unlike ones. For example, in the visit in February, Noni and I were placed in different work groups at a workshop. This put us in conversation with different population groups of the small community of Little Rock, near Lancaster. And in the workshop, we heard different versions of the same social conflict that was being addressed as a topic of discussion. Our field notes of that day include transcriptions of contradictory testimonies by different community leaders, which is going to be important in our analysis. And lastly, as I spoke in the beginning, the relation between the visible and the infrastructure that supports it requires a deeper observation and analysis in this type of practices, like in the relation between the service economy of California's urban coastal region and its inland industrial empires. In paying attention to the rational, socially engaged art projects, we value time spent understanding the different dispositives at play in the background. Our purpose is no other than to understand the manifold relations allowing for art outpost Antelope Valley to take place in its interpersonal, institutional, and spatial dimension. Observation, conversation, description, and analysis are tools key in this process. Judgment is not articulated here on modernist notions of aesthetic taste, but on the analysis of the composite articulations of real social relations. In conclusion, our goal is to understand this project and other future study cases better as shared articulations of different interests at play in a shared placemaking enterprise. Thanks.
I'm speaking as the founder of Temporary Art Review. I guess one important note within that, we think the platform and what we publish on the platform are inseparable. So we publish it as an anti-profit publication. It's an experiment in mutualism. And so when we think about and talk about socially engaged practices or social or political practices more broadly, I would feel like that's connected. But I'm just going to dive in. As a start, how can we speak of social engagement if we as critics can't engage? What does it mean to both document and act alongside it? Can criticism also be for the community? Can we be both critically and socially engaged? What if our goals were articulated alongside artists, expanding the vocabulary of social engagement to be for and with as critics, which is always, of course, also against certain forms or acts, systems or structures? Are we critical to this work or critical of it? As a start, can we assess the aesthetics of everyday actions, the uncritical spectacle of the sidewalk, backyard, classroom, community center? Should we or how should we talk about art that ends in protest or protest that emerges into art? Can we see it as a field and critique it as such? If this is the open form that art takes, can it not be the form that we as critics follow as well? Socially engaged art is an incomplete form, as all are, and should be written about as such. Does the artwork expand the field or deepen its furrows? Does it shatter the sense of your limits? Does it transform your perception for a second on a Sunday, or 2 days later when waking, when you remember you were changed almost? Can we discuss this? Are we even critics anymore? Again, can we be both critically and socially engaged? If no, then we should perhaps end now. If yes, then how? These are not my slides. Well done. When discussing art writing in relation to socially engaged practices, it is easy to try to apply tools inherited from the history of art criticism to this work. If we can quickly shrug off an assessment of the craft of social engagement. We cannot be masterful with our material. Maybe this is a place to start as well. Imported language from another form is wildly inappropriate, yet we don't know how to build ground up. Are we capable of wandering alongside an artist, of embedding within a practice, prodding it forward, assessing its place in the public, advocating for a conversation? Criticism should be an inquiry on our outside, assessing the edges so that we can leave the edges, abandoning our observership for the precarity of relationship, of community, of transformation with and alongside others, artists, audiences, participants, peers. A socially engaged art criticism is one articulated in the context of communities, one that is both critical to those communities and engaged with them. On the ground in Ferguson and other movements around the country, consider the pattern of coverage of traditional media versus live streamers, which could also be stated as spectators versus participants, the tenor of an evening news truck and the tone of a protester with an iPhone. Which was more honest? Which was more critical? When I speak of embeddedness in criticism, I'm asking for action alongside artists, or the media blurring into the protester, not simply as an onlooker or documentarian. Perhaps one can't maintain critical distance and be socially engaged, but it is still possible to act, comment, critique, and also tell the truth. That's maybe not a goal as well. Let's forget the crisis of criticism. Where are we as critics within crisis? Returning to the definition of criticality more generally, I'm quoting here, are we of crucial importance in the success, failure, or existence of something, of anything? Can we carry the crisis within us and perhaps be a decisive act? Can we ourselves be the crisis? Perhaps we fumble when it comes to socially engaged work because we don't see enough of ourselves in it. Isn't criticism another way to create forms of concern and collectivity? When did we stop short of saying that criticism at its best is also a political act? But it is also resistance, that it is engaged. Again, quoting definitions of engaged. To engage is to be morally committed to a particular cause. Or in a machined and formed term, to engage, we must move into position, to prepare to act, to make ready. Yes, to critique, to assess, to become critical, to participate or become involved in, to occupy or involve, to start fighting against. As a start, can criticism also be for the community? Can we as art writers be both critically and socially engaged? Are we already? What if our goals were articulated alongside artists, expanding the vocabulary of social engagement to be for and with as critics? Who or what are we committed to? What are we fighting against? Can we begin to move into position? I believe from this place could come a revolution. And isn't that what we're talking about?